Welcome into what are we, episode 20? I think we're episode 20 of the
Yes.
of this series. So welcome in. I'm Drew.
And I'm Kat.
Today we have another special guest that Catherine will be introducing.
Yes, we do. This is Devin Hughes, international speaker, thought leader, author, and educator. And Devin, you're in California, right? San Diego?
I am. Yeah,
Okay.
sunny SoCal.
Are you originally from California?
No, did you pick up some of my East Coast swag? Is that what you
Yes.
asked?
Yes, that's why I
Yeah.
asked.
Yeah, no, I grew up in Washington, D.C. and went to college in New York.
Okay,
Awesome.
gotcha. Okay. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you
Welcome
today and
in.
excited to have a conversation with you.
I'm super excited to be here.
So you have an interesting background. I was reading through your information, and I love some of the wording you use. So something that came to mind, if we jump in with kind of a question, what sort of problem are you most obsessed with solving right now?
Yeah. So,
That's a loaded question, I know.
yeah. So I'll answer it kind of twofold. One of it ties to my backstory. So I'll give you a
Awesome.
little bit of the backstory because that'll give the context.
Okay.
So most of my life, I felt like I didn't belong. So I'm biracial. Dad's African American, mom's Caucasian, met in the segregated South. My grandfather was in the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh,
Oh my
wow.
goodness.
So there was a lot of legacy stuff. I couldn't read until I was 10 or 11. I was in
Wow.
special ed. At the time, we didn't have resources and stuff. If you couldn't keep up, they just put you in the other class. So I always felt
Mhm.
othered until I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And so that's the backstory. So the problem that I'm really, really passionate about in community organizations is how do we create an environment where people feel like they belong,
Mm.
where they can be their authentic selves, where they can show up and be human and be messy and be real and not feel judged or ostracized for being just a little bit, different. Because I know what it feels like on the other side. So my goal, my mission, my vocation is all about trying to create spaces where people can show up again and just not feel othered.
I love that.
So that's connected to similar work that Catherine and I do. So I'm curious to double click into that. So do you find that creating a culture around that, or developing a culture, or altering a culture, do you find that difficult in corporate spaces? Because I often feel that when you come in with that mantra, it's great on paper. But when you actually need to put rubber to the road, it's like, this is too squishy, takes too long. I'm not getting a financial return. Where's the ROI? Blah, 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 right? Like investment in people seems to go right out the door because it's not financially feasible. So I'm curious, do you encounter that? How have you been successful in kind of remapping that thinking? Or have you been successful in remapping that thinking?
I think there's been some wins and some losses and some just indifference. My backstory before I started writing, speaking, researching, and teaching was in the corporate world. So I'm not the academic who's never lived through that. I kind of
Mm.
sort of know what we do, what we talk about, what we give energy to, the performance review circus every year,
Yes.
and just all the stuff, how we talk to one another. So I am familiar with that. So I do have a little bit of street cred. Now, in terms of your question specifically, have there been some successes? Yeah, degrees. It's always in the nuance.
Mhm.
But I think where I attempt to go is, again, for the most part, and it depends on the ethos of the organization. Most leaders, profit, nonprofit, government, for the most part, care about outcomes.
Hmm.
Now, financial is one thing, but how about, we talk about employee engagement, or
Mm.
we talk about retention, or we talk about things like that. So, there's the moral imperative, which again tends not to resonate as much because, really, who cares? That's not why I'm here. But how about productivity? How about things that you do care about? How about innovation? And so it depends on what the organization's appetite is. But don't get a whole lot of pushback on this. If
Hmm.
I'm in front of a room of 500 leaders, and I say this, do you think our people perform better when they feel better? Do you think that we are at our best when we feel our best? Every hand goes up. So if I
Yeah.
could help you, assist you of getting more people in a better place emotionally to operationalize things like empathy and compassion and connection and hope and not make it just woo woo, but create an environment where it's organic. Do you think outcomes would improve? Fundamentally, everyone kind of sort of nods their head.
Mhm.
And that starts a conversation.
I love that. That's gosh, you're pulling at my heartstrings with this because it's been my background for 20 plus years. But so with that being said, I love the common sense approach, right? The people centric approach. When you actually get the hands raised, like everyone is locked in at that point. How do you transition that to actionable things, right? Like, have you
Mm.
seen where that cultural shift now we need to lead by example. We need to show that our leaders are not just parroting this, right? Because it's tied to their bonus, but they actually subscribe to it and believe in it and actually want to make that investment directly into those individuals or into the corporate culture to warrant better outcomes or different outcomes.
Yeah, so a couple things. First, a little bit of baseline on what culture is,
Hmm,
Mhm.
right? Because we have very different interpretations
right.
of what it is. Is it performative? Is it the foosball, the ping pong, the food truck, the T-shirt? Hey, Macarena, right? Like, you're 22 and you got 5 cents in your pocket, and maybe you went to college and there's a happy hour or ball game and you got no obligations. That's a big time of the culture, right? You're hanging out. You live in an apartment with 4 friends. Hey, someone else is paying the dime. You get a little more seasoning on your career. I need a little bit more substance in that. Taco Tuesday's not really landing that hard. Bill's got an attitude. Frank's condescending. Mary rolls her eyes. My boss keeps canceling the one-on-ones. I have
Oh,
no idea where the growth's going. And no one collaborates. And then we're in meetings and there's no psychological safety. And your silver bullet is we're going to go out to lunch? How about no?
nailed it.
Right? How about no? Because first of all, if you knew me, you would know that I'm on keto and I'm not trying to eat carbs. And you took us to an Italian joint, homeboy. But we don't talk because every time I see you in the hallways, you go, "Hey, Billy, how you doing? Living the dream?" And you give me that nonsensical response that we all say in the hallways because I don't want to engage with a human being. So I get off of
So
my
true.
right. So my rant is that we define what culture is, and I'll be brief. I define culture beyond the performative is culture results from the messages we receive about what is really valued around here and what is not. And so beyond the stuff on the wall in the break room that says the mission statement and those platitudes, that core values, how do we live it, breathe it, operationalize it? How does it show up in actions? So I get really grounded there to answer your question, Andrew, and then unpack that. How do I know if it's alive? What does it feel like? How do I know it, feel it, hear it? If we don't, because I tell people, if it doesn't show up on the agenda, right? If we don't talk about it, it fucking doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so I say to people, I don't want you to eat the whole pizza, my man. I know you're trying to do this. You're struggling. You're trying to do. We're gonna take a slice. Managing a team of 10 or 10,000. Where do we start? What do you want people to feel? What's native to you? What do you think that we're looking at this that we could work on? And I start really small, get a little traction,
Mhm.
get a little win, fire off a little dopamine. And
Mhm.
that's how I tend to start. For the most part, I get a little bit of resistance because it's uncomfortable. And again, this is maybe naive, and I'll stop talking. I
No.
assume that for the most part that we have good people in most organizations. Now you
Mm,
could say 80-20, whatever the number is, for the most part. But what I have found is that sometimes, and most often, we normalize bad behavior.
that is
Yeah.
true.
Very true.
And
Yes.
that is the crux. That you can be a jerk, but if you perform well, yeah, I know Andrew's a little bit salty, but my God, he lights up the scoreboard. People hate
Yeah.
him, but he's awesome. And if we have that, then our culture collapses.
Yeah. Definitely have witnessed that a lot.
Yeah, I used to love the quote, reward firefighting and you breed a culture of arsonists, right? So if you're
Mm.
rewarding the wrong things, you'll support, it'll grow like wildfire. So that is a very true statement. Very true statement. I know you had some questions, Catherine, that you
I do. Yeah. I was curious. You've done work with, from what I saw in your resume, Disney and the Department of Defense. And I'm curious if your view on leadership and community has changed, which I'm sure it has over the years, or working with particular clients or organizations. Has your view on community changed for the better or for the worse or neither?
Well, I'm not tone deaf to the realities of the world right now.
Yeah,
It is heavy and hard for all of us. And I hate when people go,
right.
oh, I leave work at home. Or I
yeah.
leave work at work, or whatever they say. I don't even know, get it right, right? Yeah, right? Come on, you're human. We're messy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we take inputs, right? I mean, that's what we do. So have I seen it change from the different organizations? Yeah, I mean, culturally, I mean, there's some nuance, right? In government, it gets a little bit more sterile,
Right.
prescriptive, and, people, again, it's a little bit different, but, at a startup or nonprofit, but the common denominator is people. And I find that across
True.
all of that, again, across all industries, across all organizations, I found that every human at work wants this three things in common. They want to be seen, heard, and valued.
So true.
Right. Seen, heard, and valued. And if we can play in those sandboxes and operationalize like authentically, and it doesn't take budget, it just takes
Mhm.
showing up.
So true.
And so that's what I'm really passionate about the work. And regardless of what I am or not, then, that's what I do. I think the other thing, if I can just build on that for a second,
Yeah,
the other
absolutely.
thing in the last 15, 16 years that I've been really, really dialed into is around well-being and the science of happiness.
Mm.
Because I realized that the new car smell goes away, but the car payment doesn't.
So true.
That's a
And then
t-shirt.
right? And then when I was on the come up, I was filling my cup up with all the accoutrements, the titles, swag, all this stuff. And then I realized I can't take it with me. It's
Yeah.
just stuff. And that all I really want is to do good work with good people and to
Mm.
feel good while I'm doing it.
Oh,
And if I
yeah.
could get that right, everything else was just irrelevant. So I just spent a lot of time unpacking the science of happiness. That well-being was a really big deal because I can't give what I don't have. I've got 4
Mm.
daughters, been married 30 years this year. I'm
Wow,
just the
congratulations.
best. Well, thanks. And so either way, so I guess the entry question, well-rounded, kind of around the way, is that well-being is a part of everything that I do now. Like, for example, today's Thankful Thursday.
Mm.
Every day on Thankful Thursday, I reach out to someone and I let another human being know how thankful I am for them. Someone I went to
Wow.
school with, high school, college, loved one. Doesn't take a
Oh,
whole
that's so
lot.
awesome.
FaceTime, text. Because I realized that it takes a funeral for the flowers, the food, and the family to show up. That we'll travel around the world to tell a human being how amazing they were.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
I'm like, why aren't I letting people know why they're still here? That they're freaking amazing. And that is my mojo and motivation.
I love that.
Wow, that really puts things into perspective when you say it that way. So it's amazing, when you use the funeral reference. It's so true. So do you find that did you have to change your language, the way that you communicate to kind of normalize being pleasant and nice? I often find that people that are super pleasant and nice, there's like an atrophy away from them sometimes. Like people are like, "You're too nice." It's what's going on with it? And it's weird, right? Like we shouldn't be afraid to, or we shouldn't be turned off by people that are being nice and pleasant. It just seems odd that that is sort of a natural reaction. So how do you counterbalance that? Is it through words? Is it through actions? It's probably through all the above. But I love the Thankful Thursday idea. But how do you see others emulating that, right? So like kind of the nursing model, plan one, see one, do one kind of thing, right? So do you kind of pay it forward? Do you expect people or encourage people to pay it forward in that way to continue to reverberate your message?
I do, and I attempt to give people tools to do it. And the one thing that I do a little bit different, I say, you know what? We're going to start with the team that matters most. How about the home team? You got kids or grandkids? What
Mm.
do you want for them, homeboy? You want those kids and
Yeah.
grandkids to grow up and be optimistic? You want the best version of themselves? You want them to be happy? So you got a couple choices, big boy. You can fill their cup, or you can let the world fill it.
It's a great way to put it.
So, you want to talk big, you want to be gangster, you want to be, running around like you. All right, I want you to be gangster at home. I want you to give you some tools
Mm.
to operationalize at home. When's the last time you told someone? So again, I'm coming at people. Again, I don't try to be provocative, but I talk real and I'm aggressive and I'm passionate about the space. And you either can be about it or you can just continue to talk about it. And if you want to
So
be about it,
true.
I'm going to give you some resources to do it. So that now to your point earlier, Andrew, about do people look at me like, oh, you're so woo woo or you're over the top or kind of they're allergic to positive, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
right. So one of the questions I often ask when I do work is, and this is I couch it by hashtag real talk. So if I'm in a room with a bunch of people in an organization, I say this: if you come to work and you're too happy, optimistic, friendly, kind, positive, excited to be here on Mondays, how do people treat you, or how do they talk about you
Mm.
or act around you? And you know what the responses are? That's not professional. That's woo woo. That's
It's
Pollyanna.
crazy.
Really?
That's
That's
fake.
so wild.
That's insincere. Everybody's. Some people go, well, he's self-medicating again,
It's got to be the drugs.
right? And so I say, and everyone nods their head and leans in and go, "You're right." I said, "So if we're gonna be adulting about this,
Mhm.
we're actually suspicious of people who
That is
come
true.
in, right?
Yes.
Or even worse, we go really dark on them, Catherine. We go, they're a little
Uh,
kiss up,
yeah.
right?"
Yes, it's
And
true.
but I say this, but if you come in negative, salty, cynical, pessimistic, indifferent, not emotionally aware, that's just Billy. He's worked in the warehouse 18 years. Oh, don't worry
It's
about
normal.
Frank. That's Frank. He
Uh-huh.
talks to me like that too. Mike's a good guy. Don't worry. That's just his sense of humor. He talks like that to all the women. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just real
Wow.
talk, and everyone leans into it and go, "Oh my God."
Mhm.
The point being is we normalize one and the other, we get really suspicious about it. And so I'm like, and so that starts a conversation.
It's so important what you just said, and that's why I took a pause because I love the idea of the suspicion. Why
Mhm.
why are we, and because typically you wouldn't be that way at home. And I used to, Catherine's heard me say this time and time again, client to client, is what happens when we walk through the doors of work that our mindset shifts. It changes into something different. And a quick story, I was in a boardroom with the C-suite and we were just getting yelled at all the time. And I put the CEO's names of his kids on chairs and he was basically accosting everyone in the room. And he stopped and he goes, "Why are those names on the chairs?" And I stood up as the consultant. I said, "Would you talk like that with your kids in the room?" And he said, "No."
Mm.
And I said, "Well, why would you do that with us in the room, right? Like what is so different that you feel that you can basically talk down to people in this way?" I got fired, but it was a it was an interesting experiment, right? But they didn't forget that kind of presence to be reflective. So I do like that suspicion kind of creates a curiosity as far as why are we suspicious about that. So I love that. And do you turn that suspicion, do you kind of through your tooling turn suspicion into more of a offering of curiosity and say, why do we feel that way? Do we spend time unpacking that or do we just accept it as a good thing?
No, no, no. So I would rather go a mile. I would rather go an inch wide and a mile deep than a mile wide and an inch deep on
Hmm.
some of this. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
Got you.
we go right there. If I had to channel a little bit of Brene Brown in the vulnerability space,
Hmm.
we go right there. We're in the moment and we're going there.
Mhm.
So once we've acknowledged that, yeah, why is that? Why is it that we have a culture that if you come in, da, 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 or we normalize, da, 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 and we're in that space. And the best thing about that is there's no experts. They're just your experience. And it creates a space for us to kind of lean in like a Wi-Fi signal and go, oh my God, I thought it was just me.
Mhm.
No, we're all kind of sort of feeling that heaviness and we just kind of sort of accepted it. And so that I tap into that conversation. So the guardrails on that, look, we're not here to attack people.
Hmm.
We're not here to attack identity
Right.
or character. We're talking about behavior and mindsets and habits and processes. Because if it can be learned, which it has been, it can be
Mhm.
unlearned. Now, I also pivot like this. We spend more time at work than we spend at home.
Right.
So if I'm going to spend that much time in the space with humans, why would we lower the bar? Why would we
Amen.
settle for less? And I say to people, just because you carry it well doesn't mean it's not heavy.
Mhm.
And that starts a conversation. And some people you could like, oh my God, Andrew, like this is getting like really real in here.
Yeah.
Man, I'm ready to
Yeah.
hire you. Can you come into our house? And this is the type of work that I find that refills the cup for me, like puts oxygen in the tank because I feel like working with people is such an impact. You can have such a greater impact as far as just delivering binary lines of code.
Mhm.
So how that inspire and I love, your title, right? Chief Inspiration Officer.
Yes, I love that.
So Catherine and I were talking about that and what a great way to approach kind of a leadership role to inspire others, right? As opposed to pushing them down. How do you lift them up and build them in a way that if you suck at math, why am I going to focus on making you better at math? You're great at English. Let's play into that. right? Why am I putting you down for the things that you're not great at? I could
Mhm.
build you up and make you better in those things by focusing on things you're great at. So I think that's interesting. So talk to me about a little bit more about kind of what led you to this work, right? Like I feel like this is a nuanced type of work. You just don't fall into it, but you kind of
Mm,
do. So
yeah.
there's a deep connection with this work.
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier. I did the corporate thing because that's what you do when you graduate from college. You got to get a job and you got to, all that kind of stuff. And I did that for a number of years. And I worked in like customer facing, commercial, sales, marketing. Very people friendly. I was on teams, and so I saw the inner dynamics of what that was. I was on some great teams, some dysfunctional teams, very toxic teams. Had good leaders, toxic leaders. So I had the full data set. And then my last corporate job, we were getting acquired, and I was kind of at the kind of wits end of what I wanted to do with my career, because I don't know, this sounds kind of corny, but I just, at a certain point, I was like, am I really just going to go through life and, every year we're going to jump in the break room and they're going to celebrate my birthday. And then maybe every 5 years I get a ham or a watch, and then a bunch of guys from the third floor come down because their boss told them to, because they don't really know who I am and never speak. But like we all kind of gather in the room. Hey! So I was like, man, is that my reality? And I was like, I don't know. Beyond the money, like I wanted to live a life that had more impact, more seasoning, more substance.
Mm.
Now, in that, I was always a little bit of an outlier. I just really never felt like I fit. Like I'd be in rooms, in spaces, and they would ask my opinion and I would tell the truth. And then everyone would look around like the hard drive just stopped. And like, dude, that's not on the script. We're not supposed to say that.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I mean? Like, who talks like that?
Yeah.
And so what happened is I would get this a lot, Catherine. Hey, Devin, hey, good day today. Hey, can I talk to you after the meeting for a few minutes?
No. Yeah.
And I must have got that over and over and over. And
Well,
then
I'm
after,
curious, what would people say? Were they like, when you give feedback, you probably should say it like this? Or, I mean, what did they say to you?
well, it would just, and it wasn't even about a person. It would be like a new initiative that we were
Uh-huh.
working on. So what do you guys think about this? Is this da-da-da or this changing? I'm like, this is horrific. This is never gonna scale. Like, this is terrible. Like, I mean, and everyone's like, you don't talk about, there's that sacred cow, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so it'd be like that. When Billy asked the question, he doesn't really want to know. He's just feeling like he has to ask to make sure that everyone feels like they had their, so I'd have those conversations. And then my boss at the time, and iterations of the same boss, it wasn't to hurt me. He thought he was helping me by saving me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like pulling me out
Yeah.
of the lake.
Right.
And then after all, I felt like, is this really what I don't want this. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be this way. So either way, so fast forward how I got out, Andrew, to answer your question specifically. We were getting acquired. And then I was always giving talks and speaking in front of groups. I just felt very comfortable in front of a room. And then someone asked me at a Rotary Club to give a talk. I'm not a Rotarian, just to tell
Right.
about my life, about stuff. And no, I gave a talk, and unbeknownst to me, there was a publisher in the back of the room. In the Rotary lunch, came up to me at the end of the talk and said, hey, your story's unbelievable. Have you ever thought about writing a book? And
Interesting. Wow.
I was like, I mean, not really. I mean, I didn't know. And I thought he was a BSer, and he kept calling me. Either way, fast forward, that was real. And that book and life had moved on me corporately was the kind of the catapulted me in. I said, you know what? Maybe this is where my energy needs to go. I can take the collective aggregate experience, good and bad, and create a work where I can help other organizations create an environment where all humans can belong, thrive, feel like they matter, but also give them tools and resources to operationalize it. So that's how I got there. I wish I could say I was like in this like meeting room with this Venn diagram, and I kind of mapped out my life, you know what I mean? Or I did a Benjamin Franklin thing with the T, whatever that corny stuff is they all try to tell people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just threw myself in the middle of it. I went where the energy went, and I ended up serendipitously in places like us today,
Yeah.
starting conversations, incubating, curating, iterating, and that's how the career started, really.
Okay. That's awesome. And talk about your books, because I know you've written books and a variety of books. You've had things published.
Yeah, so the initial book was about my life story.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wrote a couple other books around happiness and well-being. And then again, I had someone after a talk go, have you ever thought about writing a kid's book? Your backstory is so compelling. But this time I was like, no, but I improv'd it. I was like, yes, I can.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should. And that's what I've been passionate about literally the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years is figuring out, well, where do jaded adults come from? They're not
Mm,
born that way. That if we can infuse
so true.
some of this stuff into kids, how they see themselves, how they see their future about hope and optimism and gratitude, then maybe I can change a kid. So that's really what I'm passionate about right now. I also have 4 daughters.
Yes.
So a lot of my kids' books and journals, a lot of the lead characters are girls, and they're badass.
Mhm.
And it's not because of their looks or because of their skinny. It's because their superpowers or they're smart as hell and they're
Uh-huh.
tough as hell. So I try to
Yeah.
break up some of those stereotypes and tropes that kind of get thrown around about girls and try to reprioritize that. Or I take the underdog. So a lot of my stuff has a little bit of an edge where I think about the people again, Andrew, in the conversation we were having who felt othered and know that, man, you whomever, I don't know. I could go on, but that's a lot of the work right now as far as like children's literature.
That's awesome.
So we were watching the Michelle Obama documentary the other day, and why I'm bringing this up was she had alluded to, her strength and power came from the dinner table at home as a young
Mm,
child. And I find what you just said, and I've been thinking through this for years about, how do we emulate who we want you to be out in the world from home first, right?
mm.
So how do we build you at home to put you out into the world as a product that is not susceptible or as susceptible to all the toxicity that the world has to offer? And how do you shine in the darkness? So I find that incredibly inspirational that you focus on the home. How do you bring that? So do you literally kind of, if you normalize the home experience out into the real
Mhm.
world, is that kind of what you promote as a practice? Is like, hey, this is the way I am at home, right? If you were in my
Mm.
house at the dinner table, I would be very much the same way as I am in the boardroom. Is
Mhm.
that a method that you kind of teach people, or is that something I'm just pie in the sky dreaming
No,
too
no,
optimistically?
absolutely. I treat you as the holistic human that you are. So home matters. It's an environment. You have a culture at home. So if I'm going to get you to change your mindset, we need to change your habits. And so absolutely. So for example, if we're operationalizing like gratitude today on Thankful Thursday, and we were in a session today, I'm going to say, hey, I want you to think about a person in your personal life, someone on the home team that you're really thankful for in the family, maybe kind of sort of you don't tell them enough. I'm going to give you
Mm,
2 minutes right now to send a text or DM to someone at home and let them know how much you love them, appreciate them. And I don't
Mm.
want you to wordsmith it. I want you to be authentic. And I give them 2 minutes. I start right there. And
Yeah.
then they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, like really. And you'll watch the energy change because the response they'll get back. And then they'll go, oh my God. Yes. Because if we don't take care of the home, again, certainly you could do a lot, but if I get you a better human at home, you're going to be happier and you're going to show up better at work.
Yes.
Right. And then you're going to let people normalize it. So we can talk about things like boundaries and work life because you understand it. We're operationalizing gratitude. The other thing it does in terms of inclusion, that what I try to tell people, and not necessarily explicitly, that we have so much more in common than we think.
hmm
And just
So true.
normalizes that conversation that we want to take care of the home team. You got kids and I have kids and we've got grandkids and we all. And so either way, so absolutely, Andrew, that's a big part of it. And I try to weave that in from the beginning.
So, did you build your experience just through life? Right? Like I used to say there's book smart and there's street smart. And when you can get somebody that has both, it's an interesting, bookend. The bookends, the body of work between the bookends is very different than someone that's just an academic versus someone that's just street smart. So, how did you come up with this happiness kind of thinking as far as, and I know we've been touching on it, but how did you really sink your teeth into it saying, this is the work I need to do, right? Because I am positively impacting people in a way that changes the future of how we look at leadership or how we look at people or how we deal with humans, whether we're in friction or in relationship or not.
Yes, I think it's both. So I spent a lot of time in the research. So for example, human beings have a negativity bias. We're drawn to negativity,
Mm.
right? It's kind of Darwinian, right? It's fight or flight. The brain's number one job is to keep us alive. I get it. The brain is Velcro for negative news, negative everything. Okay, so I know the biology of it. I also know that I'm better when I feel better. So I know what I'm dealing with. So, for example, did you know that according to the research, you need 3 to 5 positives to outweigh 1 negative on the brain?
I didn't know
No,
that.
I did not know that.
Right? That's how demonstrative. So that
Mm.
one condescending comment, right? That one little, it hurts, right? So the brain picks it up. So I know the research. I know intuitively, again, my own experience. I also know the research, Andrew. I know both. I've also played college athletics. My father was in the military.
Mm.
So with me, it's a collective aggregate of lived experiences, also being very, particular about the research. So it's both and contextualizing it. I also teach at San Diego State, I mentioned earlier. So for
Mhm.
example, I'm a little bit of an outlier as a professor. Like every Friday when I teach is Feel Good Friday. For the first 5 minutes of every class, we do something around well-being. Now, some people go,
Okay.
what does that belong here? Well, homeboy, you know why it belongs? Because you know what? When engagement goes up, learning goes up. And I'm not just creating a student who wants a
Mhm.
grade. I got a human being in front of me who's dealing with his own messiness in a world that's full of angst and stress and uncertainty and ambiguity. So who am I not to invest in them? My point of that is sometimes you would think people would study it and go, oh my God, people love you. Your evals are amazing. But they always don't. They get suspicious again of that woo-woo. What are you doing? So my point of all that ramble is it's both, but I am going to show up and be me because I think the work matters. I've seen the response matter, the data matters, and the world we live in is just full of heaviness right now. Whatever I can do to play a small part in bringing more humans together and feeling
Oh,
better
yeah.
about themselves is a really, really big deal. And I get up every single day feeling like that's my mission, my calling to do it, and it's what I write, speak, research about.
It's
Wow.
awesome. So, what do you have in mind for the future? Are there things that you want to accomplish, goals that you have, things that you still want to do?
I'm going to continue to write books as I get passionate. I think an area right now that I have not gone into that I'm really kind of excited about is writing some children's literature for those in the neurodiverse community.
Mm,
Mm.
nice.
Parents and kids who've been othered, like, whether it be autism or dyslexia or anything where they feel neurodiverse. We didn't have language like that when I was a child because, again, I felt what it was like when you felt, academically just, yeah. So on the children's side, I'm really passionate about that. On the professional side, I'm just going to continue to do the work, gravitate to people that are, excited to do the work, bigger platforms, bigger stages, wherever I can go, I'll go. I think that the world right now is, again, pretty heavy. And I'm as excited in my small part, to see if I can make it just a little bit better.
Yes.
So that's really what
Yeah.
I'm drawn to now.
We've definitely talked about that, just trying to put more good into the world.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about this the other night, and I was like, "Gosh, no one's ever going to give you a hard time for being good, right? Like
Yeah.
doing good things. We shouldn't be put down or feel apprehensive to do good things. Now, the
Yeah.
right thing may not feel good, but we shouldn't be
True.
apprehensive to invest in people in a good way. So, leading with heart or changing hearts and minds, I feel is the most rewarding work out there. So,
Right.
how do you continue to, because this is not easy work
Mm.
per se. So how do you kind of recharge? What do you do? And it could be hobbies, or how do you kind of refill the cup for you? Because this is heavy work. Just like you said, the world
Right.
is heavy.
Mm.
Absorbing people, building people can take a lot of effort and kind of drain you in a way. So what do you do to continue to stay energized around this? Or how do you re-energize when you're feeling empty?
Yeah, I mean, it seems almost trite, but it's pretty simple stuff for me. Like I'm very intentional about my routines in terms of my wellness. It's not just stuff I talk about. For example, 2 walks with my dog when I'm home gets
Mm.
me in a really quiet space with no devices and just being present and soaking up the reality. The noise is a sign. We talk about mindfulness. I'm just very intentional about that space. I journal every day. I journal just, again, I have something called good things happening to me. That's the journal, and I write down at least one good thing that's happening to me every day.
Oh, that's
Uh,
so good.
so it's like I'm circling my life. I don't need 10 because that's unrealistic. I just need one. And then at the end of the
Mhm.
week, I circle back and I just do a quick reflection on the 7 things that happened to me that week. Do it at the end of the month. So I'm curating and you call all this stuff that all the good things are happening to me. I've been married. My wife and I, like, for example, when she gets home, she's a teacher. Again, when I'm not traveling, we're very intentional about our walks together.
Hmm.
I'm just really big being outside and being with other humans, checking in with my crew. I love music, working out. I don't need a whole lot of stuff. I just find the things that light me up, and I put myself in spaces that I have to do them routinely. I
Nice.
call this, and some people make fun of me, I call this, it's my happiness hygiene.
I love that.
Yeah, that's what a great
It's a
you
great
have all these
title.
great terms. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, really,
Right?
it's
Because, like, no one has to remind us that hygiene matters.
Right.
We do it every day. And the same way with my happiness hygiene. I just certain things that are not, they just know that I'm a better human when I take care of that stuff, and then I'm more apt to take care of other people. So that's when the heaviness comes, I'm okay because I know what I'm going to do. And you made me think of this, and I have to share it because again, I'm not tone deaf to what the realities. My mother was not neither parent was a college graduate, but
Hmm.
they were both Southern. My dad grew up in a tobacco farm in Mullen, South Carolina, 9th grade dropout. My mom had me when she was 18 in Tennessee,
mm,
which is neither here nor there. High IQ, but just not college educated. But I'd come home from school, and they both had a lot of these like kind of witty kind of sayings. You know what I mean? That you just only can get on a front porch with a little bit of lemonade. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And I remember I would come home sometimes and I'd be struggling. I didn't feel like, I was in my head. And I remember one time I'd come home and my mother would say this, and I still to this day remember this. She'd say, "Boy, there ain't no such thing as bad weather, only inadequate clothing."
wow,
Oh, that's great. I love that. It's true.
wow,
And she'd say, "You stop trying to manage the storm. I
Huh.
need you to
Wow.
manage how you show up in it."
Oh,
wow,
amen to that.
And
wow.
I could just hear my mom. She goes, "The storm will be the storm. The storm will be the storm, and there will be many storms. But you need to manage how you show up in it." And that talk track is just so hardwired in me that that's why I continue to push forward.
So great. I subscribe to a lot of people that speak very highly of their mothers. Like Zig Ziglar, for example, always would tell stories of his mother. So I love the connection to, again, being centered around family and rooted in kind of the upbringing of things. And whether it was good or bad, we pull out some really interesting things. And it takes so long to get that perspective. I think that's
Hmm.
the frustrating part is later in life we understand things differently as to how we got here, and it's less about the trials and tribulations of being bad, but it's more about, wow, I learned so much through going through the muck and the crap and the shit of the world, and it has helped shape me in a way to continue me pushing forward. And I love the fact, I used to look at it as discipline. How am I disciplining myself to be happier, to be more positive? Now that you said happiness hygiene, I'm never going to use discipline again. So I'm going to change my thinking because that to me, discipline has a negative connotation to it to some point or feels harder. Happiness hygiene feels like routine, feels like I could do that
Mm.
every day. So thank you for that. That is I love kind of the wordplay that you're using here in a sense. So that's inspirational for me. So as we kind of get towards the end of the discussion here, what would you want to leave people with as far as, what's a strong message? Because we've alluded to, the world is heavy right now. So what kind of words of encouragement or just words of reality would you want people to take away from you and kind of plant a seed out there?
Yeah. So, not to be preachy, but I think sometimes we abdicate our personal responsibility to affect change. And
Mm.
so I'd say, I don't need you to change the world. I just need you to change your behavior. So, what's one small thing you can do to help another human being? So, can you send a text, let another human being know, hold a door, say thank you, operate some kindness, go knock on a door, introduce yourself to a neighbor, bring a trash can back? Like these small little deeds. So I just said, look, I don't need you to do everything. I just need you to do something.
Hmm.
And what's something
Hmm.
you could do organically and systematically that can help others, bring others together? And so it's just interesting about that. I mean, again, I don't want to go off on a tangent again, but I wrote a piece the other day that the silence we were raised with and the mess it left behind. And part of that silence was around money, politics, and religion.
Mm. Right.
And
Yeah.
I know this is probably another whole podcast, but it was like part of that answer to answer your question was like, I'm having to relearn skills I should have learned when I was a youngster. Maybe if I would
Right.
have been trained and learned to talk about the hard stuff, it wouldn't be so hard now. It wouldn't feel so
Mhm.
polarized and also. And so I'm just trying to build spaces where we can have conversations, where we can build a longer table, where we can build community. So I guess my parting words would be, progress, not perfection. Right? Do something. Don't be so hard on yourself. You can make a big difference, but you got to get outside your comfort zone and reach out to others. And however you do it, you do it. Let's do something.
Yeah.
It seems so simple, but it kind of falls short sometimes in execution. But I couldn't agree more in that sense. So, is there anything you want to plug, or any way that we can help support what you're doing? Because I actually think your work is so important in the world right now, and it's always important. So, is there any way, we will publish all your content as far as how do people get a hold of you. I would love to continue the conversation. I would love to have you on again. I would love to double click into what you just talked about, politics, money, and people. So I would love to continue that. But is there anything we can help promote for you?
I mean, no, no. I mean, I just again, just share if you want to share my info to people who have an interest, whether it be workshop, speaking, whatever, I'd be happy to engage. Other than that, no, I don't. There's nothing really. I don't. I'm not. I'm just being pushed where the work goes, and I appreciate having an opportunity with both of you today to be in a space where we could just talk about the heaviness and hard, doing it in a safe place. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and final question. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'll save the hardest for last. What about this call to action as far as looking for podcast guests? Why us? I'm just curious for feedback. What made our post, have you jump in, or is this just, hey, it popped up on your LinkedIn feed and you were like, hey, I'll give it a shot?
Well, I mean, I don't remember specifically on how it was framed, but there was something, the way it was framed caught my eye. It just seemed like my people. I don't know why.
Love it.
Love that.
No, it's perfect
Do you
because
know what I mean?
that yeah,
Yes.
it feels you feel very comfortable to us, so it's I feel like you're just part of the group regardless, and this is the first time we're meeting, and I just feel super comfortable with you. I feel like, wow, I am actually going to absolutely read some of your material deeper than I have already. So I am enthusiastic to continue to learn more about you. So I'm greatly appreciative that you were able to join us today. I thank you for the really enjoyable conversation, and I look forward to continuing it.
Well, thanks. I'd love to come back. I really appreciated it too. This was amazing. Went by so fast too, huh?
It
It
did.
did. It did. If we didn't have a hard stop, we would absolutely continue the conversation. Unfortunately, we're kind of booked up throughout the day. So I don't mean to cut it short, but it'll leave the opportunity for the next conversation. So I'm looking forward to that. And I will
Yes,
definitely
it was
reach out
great,
and we'll get
Devin.
that scheduled.
Can I give you a call to action for both of you before we get off?
I would love
Absolutely.
it.
Today is Thankful Thursday. So today sometime, I want you to think about a loved one, coworker, colleague, someone in your life that matters, and maybe kind of sort of you don't tell them enough how much they matter, and you're going to do it today. Text, DM,
Absolutely.
let
Yes,
them know.
I wrote
definitely.
it down. I actually wrote that down. So you already got the call to action before the call to action. So I am
All right,
absolutely going to
perfect.
do that. I
Awesome.
appreciate that. And Devin, thanks again for joining us. This is another episode of The Well. I'm Drew.
And I'm Kat.
We'll talk to you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.